In 12 years of doing this, I've sat across the table from over 80 families planning for retirement. And I can tell you something that most financial advisors won't say out loud. The majority of people who struggle in retirement didn't make a catastrophic mistake, gamble their savings away, or ignore their finances completely. Instead, they just didn't know 5 things. 5 specific, fixable things that nobody ever taught them. So that's what this video is about. I'm going to walk you through all 5, where they come from, what they actually cost you, and exactly what to do instead. If you're within 20 years of retirement, let's sit down and build this out. Here's how I think about retirement planning. Most people treat it like a checklist. Save money, pick some funds, hope it all works out. But the families who actually get this right treat it like a system. Every piece connects. Every decision affects the next one. And when I look at the families who struggle, it almost always comes back to the same 5 breakdowns. I call them the 5 retirement traps. We're going to go through all 5, and by the end of this, you'll know exactly which ones apply to you. Let's start with the one I see most often. Trap 1. Retirement never sends you a bill. Here's a concept I want you to understand because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Every financial obligation in your life competes for your attention. Your mortgage, your car payment, your kids' tuition, your parents' medical bills, they all have due dates. They all send reminders, and they all show up in your bank account, whether you're ready or not. Retirement is the only financial obligation in your life that never sends you a bill. There's no due date, no reminder, no penalty notice. So what happens? It loses the competition every single month. And that's not a character flaw. That's just how human attention works. Urgency will always be importance. The thing screaming for attention today wins over the thing that matters most long-term, but is silent. I had a client where we can see this scenario play out. I'll call her Lisa. She was carrying her household, her mom's dementia care, her son's college tuition, and her daughter's high school expenses all at the same time. She called me one night and said, "It feels like everyone is depending on me, but nobody's asking how I'm supposed to make all this work." She wasn't being irresponsible. She was completely overwhelmed. In retirement, the one thing with no bill and no due date, with no one calling to collect, kept getting pushed back. Here's what most people do. They say, "I'll get to it next month." And next month turns into next year, and next year turns into the next decade. And that invisible bill, it compounds every month. Because every month you don't pay it, the cost of catching up increases. You have to make retirement a priority. So here's the framework that we use. Step 1, put every single expense in your life on one page. Not in your head, but on paper. Your household bills, your debt, your family obligations, and your retirement contribution, all in one place at the same time. Step 2, give your retirement savings a due date. Just like every other bill, automate the contribution so it moves before you can spend it. Make it as important and automatic as your mortgage. Step 3, look for ways to save and set limits. When Lisa and I did this together, we found a local caregiving program that covered part of her mom's in-home care. Her son applied for scholarships they'd never considered, and she set a fixed monthly cap for her children's expenses. All of a sudden, several $100s a month appeared that she didn't know she had by putting the boundaries in place. If you don't have every expense written down in one place right now, you're making the biggest financial decisions of your life based on a feeling. And feelings are a bad guide when real money is on the line. Trap number 2, you don't actually know your number. Let me ask you something. What is the exact dollar amount you need to retire? Not a range, not somewhere around $1 million, but the actual number. Most people can't answer that. And that's a massive problem. Because when you don't have a real number, you either overshoot and work years longer than you needed, trying to chase a higher target, or you undershoot and you find out way too late that you came up short. Both outcomes are avoidable, and the fix is simpler than most people think. Here's the framework I use with every single one of my clients. Step 1, we design your actual retirement, not the TV version, your version. Where are you living? What does a normal Tuesday look like? Who are you spending time with? What are you doing with your days? Get specific. Step 2, we price that life. What does it cost per month? Add up your housing, your healthcare, groceries, transportation, travel, hobbies, giving, and a buffer for the unexpected. If you multiply that by 12, now you have an annual number. Step 3 is we multiply that annual number by 25, and that's your target. The 25 comes from what's called the 4% rule. That's the principle that if you withdraw about 4% of your savings per year, that's a sustainable starting point for a long retirement. It's not a guarantee, the returns will vary, situations will be different, but it gives you a real number instead of a guess. So if your retirement costs $80,000 a year, you're targeting roughly $2 million. If it costs $60,000 a year, you're targeting roughly $1.5 million. Now here's what I've seen happen when people actually do this exercise. Half of them realize they're closer than they thought, and their fear lifts. They can finally breathe and plan. The other half find a gap. But here's the thing, a gap with a number attached to it is completely different from a vague anxiety about the future. A numbered gap can be planned around. Anxiety in an unknown gap can't. Do this exercise today. Write down your number. Everything else in your retirement will flow from it. Trap number 3 is your money isn't working and you don't realize it. You can do everything right, saving consistently, contributing every month, never touching the account, and still fall behind. Not because of market crashes or bad decisions, it's simply because your money isn't working. Idle money has a hidden cost, and some people never see it. I had a client I'll call Brian. He had 3 retirement accounts from previous jobs. He assumed they were fine because he'd set them up while he enrolled. He was still contributing to his current plan, so he thought he was doing everything right. When we reviewed the accounts together, we found that one of them had been sitting in a money market fund for almost a decade. Now, a money market fund is meant to be a parking spot for cash. It's designed for safety, not for growth. While the account sat there barely moving, the stock market went through one of its longest growth periods in history, and Brian's money didn't participate. He wasn't reckless or gambling, he just wasn't looking. Set it and forget it is the advice that sounds responsible, but can quietly cost you years of compounding. Here are some scenarios of how this can happen. Scenario 1 is an old 401k from a previous job sitting in whatever fund it defaulted to. Scenario 2 is the fund choices you made at age 35, never updated, and now are completely misaligned with your actual timeline. Scenario 3, everything in your current employer's plan has not been reviewed since the day you enrolled, which could be many years. None of these felt like mistakes, but all 3 can quietly cost you. Your investments need to match 3 things: your current risk tolerance, your actual retirement timeline, and what you're specifically trying to accomplish, not how you thought 15 years ago. The fix isn't complicated. You just have to look. Pull up every retirement account you own, every single one. If you don't know what fund you're in, find out today and optimize it for where you're at now. This isn't because you need to chase returns. It's because there's a fundamental difference between taking risk on purpose and choosing to avoid it on accident. If any of this is landing with you and you want someone to actually look at your full picture with you, there's a link in the description to book a conversation with my team. There's no pitch and no pressure, just clarity on where you actually stand. Now let's talk about the trap that surprises people the most because it never shows up as a loss on your statement. Trap number 4, you're paying more in taxes than you need to. Most people think about growing their retirement savings in one of 2 ways. You can either earn more or spend less. But there's a third lever almost nobody talks about. And for a lot of families, it's the biggest one. A few years ago, I had a couple come in. I'll call them Mark and Jennifer. Mid-40s, successful business, strong revenue, and from the outside, everything looked great. But when we sat down, they told me something hard to say out loud. After 15 years of running that business, they had 0 saved for retirement. Every dollar had gone back into the business or into the family. They kept saying, we'll figure it out later. At the same time, they were on track to pay roughly $50,000 in federal taxes that year. I showed them the right retirement plan structure, one that's designed specifically for business owners in their situation, could redirect more than $10,000 per year away from taxes and into their retirement savings. They didn't earn another dollar. They didn't cut a single expense. The money was already there. It was just going to the wrong place. Now, Mark and Jennifer were business owners, and that strategy was specific to their situation. But the principle applies broadly. I'm not a CPA, so this is not tax advice, and your situation will be different. Always work with a qualified tax professional on tax decisions. But if you're a W-2 employee, the leak might look like this. Leak 1, You could be pulling from the wrong accounts first in retirement, creating an unnecessary tax hit. Leak 2 is missing a window to do a Roth conversion in a lower income year. Leak 3 is taking Social Security at the wrong time, making more of a taxable than necessary. Leak 4, which we see commonly, is retirees crossing an income threshold that triggers higher Medicare premiums. These aren't unique strategies. They're decisions that most people make without realizing they're connected. And when no one is looking at them together, you pay more than you have to. If you run the math on just one of these, if someone overpays by $5,000 a year for 15 years, that's $75,000 that never reached their retirement. Invested over time, the real cost is significantly higher. The tax code rewards people who plan. Most people just don't know who to ask or that they should, which takes us to our last step. Trap number 5, nobody's looking at all your pieces together. This is the trap that catches the most prepared people. And I want to say something clearly before we get into it. If you manage your own investments and you've done that for years and you've built something real, that takes genuine discipline. Most people never do it, and that's something to be proud of. But there's a shift that happens as you approach retirement. The game starts to change. For most of your working life, the game is accumulation. You want to save more, invest well, let it compound. The decisions are mostly independent of each other. You don't need to coordinate everything together. Retirement is a distribution game, and in distribution, every decision connects to every other decision. If you pull the wrong lever, it creates a chain reaction across everything else. I had a self-directed investor come to me with about $2 million. He was a sharp guy, disciplined, and he hadn't handed his money to anyone. He'd built it himself. He didn't come for me to take it over. He just wanted a second opinion on a few upcoming decisions. When we looked at the full picture, here's what we found. His Social Security timing affected his annual income. His annual income affected his tax bracket. His tax bracket determined how much he could convert to Roth without a massive penalty. His income level also had the potential to trigger higher Medicare premiums. And all of that connected back to how much his family would eventually inherit. He was tempted to make each decision in isolation, but he was aware enough to know that none of those decisions live in isolation. When should I take Social Security? What account do I pull from first? Do I do a Roth conversion this year, and how much is too much? Will my income this year affect my Medicare premiums later? Is my insurance still right for this stage of life? Does my estate plan reflect what I actually want? These are not 6 separate questions. They are one interconnected system. If you answer one wrong, it ripples through all the others. This applies even if you already have an advisor. If your advisor's only managing your investments, but nobody's coordinating your taxes, your Social Security strategy, your withdrawal plan, your insurance, your Medicare exposure, and your estate plan together, you still have a gap. You might have one piece covered while 5 others are on their own. Getting a second set of eyes on this doesn't mean you failed. It means the decisions are important enough and connected enough that they deserve to be reviewed before you make them. And that's the real reason so much retirement advice falls short. Because the financial system most advisors work inside is designed around managing one piece, not coordinating the whole picture. I made an entire video on how that system works from the inside, what it looks like, how to spot it, and exactly what to ask before you trust anyone with your financial future. That one's up next. I'll see you there.